Welcome to chapter 2 of the book of Daniel. Chapter 1, I believe, shows mainly that God is in control or in charge of the affairs of man. In fact, the whole book of Daniel, to me, almost proves it. One of the things when I came back to the Lord after a 13-year hiatus that drew me back to Him was when I went to this church in Southern California, and they went through the Bible, the whole Bible, like we are here, and it mentioned, the pastor was talking about Israel becoming a nation, which the 13 years I could care less. It didn't even mean anything to me. But then when I started reading Ezekiel and these different prophecies, I went, wow, this is really amazing. The prophecies of God prove that God is in charge of the world and the actions within the world, everything. And it doesn't mean that we're robots, that He makes us do everything, but He is in charge of it, just as a king or a president can be in charge of a country. It can have a lot of ways of determining how people behave, and God even more so. Chapter 1 really didn't have any linkage to the book of Revelation, but chapter 2 is where we have a beginning of the linkage to the book of Revelations. When we get to it, we'll point that out. It begins in the Thevtero year, the second year, Deuteronomy, the second law. It comes from that, the Deutero, second year of the kingdom, Vasileus Nabucodonosor, Enipniasthi, Enipnia, it has to do with hypne, a dream, sleep. Dreamed a dream, Ipnion. And his pneuma, spirit, was startled, and Ipnos, his sleep went from him. I've been there, done that. I'm sure a lot of us have. We have dreams, and boy, sometimes I wish I could remember them, and I can't. As soon as I wake up, it's like, wow, something that was so strong and I was feeling, as soon as I woke up, it's gone instantaneously, and I couldn't bring it back. It happens to me all the time, quite often. So this is what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. And the king Vasileus said to call the enchanters and the magi and the ministers of potions and the Chaldeans to announce to the king the things of his dreams. The Epaithus, the enchanters, they were actually people that were, I don't know what you want to call it. It wasn't really a witch, but they had ways of foretelling the future by different ways of, some later in times they cut open animals and see how the liver was arranged and so forth. And the Magi, we mentioned in the last, I think it was in the last chapter, they are the people that were the Zoroastrians of Persia, influence here into Babylon. The Magi were the ones that came to find the baby Jesus. And the Pharmacus, the administrators of potions, but actually even earlier they were, it was an ancient religion that was ritualistic, had ritualistic sacrifices or exiled of a human. It's sort of a scapegoat type of rituals. And the Chaldeans, who were probably from the southern part of Mesopotamia, the Chaldee, and to announce Anangele, the angel, to announce, messenger, Anangeli, whenever you see the Alpha Gamma Gamma, to announce to the Vasili the things of his Enipnia. And they came and stood before the Vasileos, and the Vasilevs said to them, Enipniastin, there's the verb, I dreamed, and it startled my pneuma, so as to know the dream. He didn't know it. And the Chaldeans spoke to the king, Vasili, in Syriac, and that's probably Aramaic. That would have been the language Jesus spoke, because many of the people that came back from the Babylonian captivity spoke this language. Aramaic, it was also called, and the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Syriac. Now, I'm not sure if the king and these men spoke different languages, and that's what Daniel's saying here, or he's just saying that this is the language they spoke and it wasn't the Hebrew of the Jews. I don't know. And they said, O king, Vasilev, live into the aeonis, the eons. You tell the Anipneon to your servants, and the interpretation of it, Anangelumen, we shall announce. And the Vasilevs answered and said to the Chaldees, well, the matter, the logos, here's the word, and here it's matter. It was really more than a word, and I put matter, can be either one, depends on the context. The matter departed from me. If then you should not make known to me the dream, the Nipneon, and the interpretation of it, you will be for destruction, and your houses shall be torn in pieces. Wow. The king's answer, he said, the matter's departed from me. And he threatened them to tell him. But if the Nipneon and the interpretation of it you should make known to me, gifts and favors without charge, and much honor you shall receive from me. Except the dream and the interpretation of it, report it to me. And this is in the exclamation, the imperative. And they answered Thevteron a second time, and he said, O Vasilevs Epato, let the king tell the Anipneon to his servants, and the interpretation of it we shall announce. Anangelumen. There's the alpha, gamma, gaba, announce. And the king Vasilevs answered and said, well, in truth I know that you buy back time, even insofar as you knew that the word departed from me. If then the Nipneon you should not anangilate me, to announce to me, I know that a lying and corrupt word you agreed to speak before me until the time should go by. Well, if he didn't ask what the dream was, they could say anything. If he said what the dream was, they could just give any explanation. But he made it almost impossible for a man to be able to do that by having to tell what the dream was. Tell to me my dream, and I shall know that also its interpretation you shall announce to me. And answered again the Chaldeans before the Vasilevs, and they say, there's not an anthropos, a man, anthropology, a derivative, epi upon the xiras, the dry land. Cirrhosis is a dryness of the skin. Who is able to make known the discourse of the Vasileos. Insofar as every Vasilevs megas, great king, and archon, ruler, according to such matter, ask not an enchanter, magus, or a Chaldean. Now here again is matter, rima. It's not logos. It's a little bit there's difference there. And rima generally always has to do with a saying or a matter. Logos is more direct of the words. For the logos, there's the word, logos for word there. For the word which the king asks is varis, heavy. A barometer has to do with the weight of the atmosphere. And there is not another who shall announce it before the king, the Vasileos, except the Thei, the gods, which are not dwelling with any sarkos, flesh. Then the Vasilevs in Themo, in rage and orgy, poli, much anger, said to destroy all the sophus of Babylon, philosophy. Comes from that, Sophie, wisdom, a lover of wisdom. And the dogma, the decree, and we have the word dogma, went forth that the Sophie be killed. And they saw Daniel and his philus, friends, to do away with. Then Daniel answered counsel and opinion to Arioch, the chief guard of the Basileus, who came forth to do away with the Sophus of Babylonos. And he inquired of him, saying, O Archon to Basileus, for what reason came forth the Gnome? Gnome is the derivative which is impudent from in front of the king, which is a problem in front of the king, which is something there. It's causing him to be upset. And Arioch made known the saying to Daniel. And Daniel entered and petitioned the Basileia so as to give chronon, time. There's a difference between kairos and chronon. They both can use time, but kairos is more of like a season of a time, and a time is hours, minutes, so forth. Time to him. And the interpretation of it, anangele, he should announce to the Vasili. And Daniel went to his house, and to Ananiah, and to Misael, and to Azariah, his friends, to make known the Rima, the saying. And they sought compassions from the God of heaven concerning this mystery. The mystery is mentioned also in the book of Revelation, and when we get to Revelation, we'll be going to these different mysteries that appear in the book of Revelation, and a lot here in the book of Daniel. So they sought compassions from the God of heaven concerning this mystery. Now, Daniel made the statement that he's going to come back and give it, and he couldn't do it, off with his head. But yet it was a step of faith, basically, that Daniel was taking this step of faith by saying that they would bring back what the king wanted. And then he goes and asks from the God of heaven concerning the mystery, so that therefore Daniel and his friends should not be destroyed with the rest of the Sophon of Babylon. Then, 7, to Daniel in a night vision, we'll say. The mystery was uncovered in a night vision. And the God of heaven, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. And now a vision is a sight, something he saw, and whatever he saw uncovered this mystery and told him. It doesn't describe this vision, but a vision has to do with the sight. It wasn't just a word or a dream. Well, it could have been a dream and a vision, but it doesn't say dream, but it could have been, I suppose. And he said, well, may it be, the name of God being blessed from the Aeonos, and unto the Aeonos, for the wisdom and the might are his. So he's praising God. The name of God being blessed into the eon, into the eons, for the wisdom and the might are his. So he gives us everything. He is the power behind a person that is living a life righteously. Then the things of God will come to that person, because God loves to bless his people. And wisdom comes to people. Now, you can be a wise person and be a powerful person, and might not be a believer. True. But that wisdom can be, I can't think of the word, diluted or something, because there was a famous chess master. Now, I read this. Now, I can't back it up as far as I wasn't there and I didn't see it and I don't know, but I just read about it, and it may be wrong, but it said that this chess master, Bobby Fischer, who was just the greatest chess master, just made millions of dollars playing chess and being a chess master, gave all of his money to a ministry of Herbert Armstrong. So even though he had this, he was smart in this thing, he lacked the wisdom. And God, he changes kairos. There's seasons and chronos. Both of them appear in this sentence here. kairos, seasons, and chronos. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Can he changes times and seasons? Wouldn't be right, because seasons is more towards the kairos. But sometimes he changes times and times, so because it'll use times for kairos, not for chronos. And he ordains vasilis and changes. So he ordains, and now he's getting down to what he does. He changes seasons and times, control of the rotation of the earth and the asteroids that could hit it, and the volcanoes that can erupt, all the things that have to do with times and seasons. He ordains kings, and he changes whoever he wants. You see the pride of these men later, where they have photographs of them and movies of like Adolf Hitler, who thinks he has complete control of everything, and he's given thousands and thousands of people he's speaking to and ranting, but yet he died a few years later, and he's in his 50s. And he ordains kings, and he changes. So everything the Third Reich fell. And giving wisdom to the wise ones, and intelligence to the ones knowing understanding. He apocalypti, uncovers. Apocalypse comes from that. Deep, vatheia, and concealed things. Knowing the things in the darkness, and the light is with him. And we went through earlier the New Testament that God is light, and he knows the things that are in the darkness. He can see that, and they're not good. They're the evils. But the light is with him. It mentions that the light appeared before the sun was created. Genesis. And to you, O God of my fathers, I acknowledge and praise for wisdom and power you gave to me, and made known to me what we petitioned from you, in the matter of the vasileos you made known to me. So praise the Lord, he made it known to him. So off Daniel goes to the king. Daniel came to Arioch, whom the king Vasileus appointed to destroy the Sophus of Babylonos, and said to him, the Sophus of Vavilonos you should not destroy, but bring me before the Vasileos. And the interpretation, Anangelo, I will announce to the Vasili. Then Arioch, in haste, brought Daniel before the Vasileos, and said to him, the king, not to Daniel, I found a man, Eureka, I found it. Was Archimedes, was that Archimedes, I think, that said it? I found a man from out of the sons of the captivity of Judea, who will announce Anangeli, the interpretation to the Vasili. And the Vasilevs answered and said to Daniel, of which the name is in the Greek is Baltasar, are you able to anangilem to enipnion, which I behold, and the interpretation of it? And Daniel answered before the king and said, the mysterion which the Vasilevs asks is not of Sophon, wise ones, Magon, Epaidon, Gazarinon, to announce to the king. The Gazarinon, astrologers, is an Aramaic word. But there is a theos, a God, in Urano, heaven. Apocalypton, there's the apocalypse again, the word, derivative uncovering mysteria. But there's so many of these English derivatives, that once you start picking them up, it really helps understanding the Bible. And it's in our book, English Derivatives from the Greek New Testament. I should probably show it to you. I'll put this on pause. I probably shouldn't show you this one. It's a well-worn book that I have for 25 years. I did it about 25 years ago. And it goes through and lists all these words, and it gives the number, the pronunciation in true Greek, and it gives the Greek word and the derivative and so forth. English derivatives from the Greek New Testament by me, Charles Vanderpool. It's in our bookstore, and we go through this. We'll be going through the whole Old Testament here soon, and it'll be a good book to have when you go through it. The anipnion of you and the oros in the vision of your cephalic, as do the head, upon your bed is this. You, Vasilef, your thoughts, dialogismi, dialogue, comes from that. Your thoughts upon your bed ascended to what must take place after these things. So, after these, then he's going to tell them what they are. And the one uncovering, apocalypton, mysteria, made known to you what must take place. So what's going to happen afterwards? And to me there is not a Sophia, wisdom, being in me, more than all of the zontos, living. I mentioned before the zeta omega has to do with life, living, animal, something. But mysterion, this mysterion, apocalypthi, was uncovered because of the interpretation to be made known to the Vasili, that you should know the theologismus of your cardias, your heart, cardiac. So this is, we're saying, I don't know anything. It was given to me to tell to you so you'll know. You, Vasilef, viewed, and behold, icon, one megali, mega, great icon, image. Now, I have another book I wrote last year, 2016. It's called Entities of the Book of Revelation. Hope you can see it here. And it goes through the book of Revelation, and it lists all the different entities in the book of Revelation under one subject. Like right here we have wine, and then all the things about wine, and then at the end I usually put a little, I put a note at the end here about the importance, and I bring in the Old Testament. And so this is in page 21, icon. So I'm going to go to 21, and here it is here, image, icon. And the icon is in the image is in the book of Revelation many places, saying to the ones dwelling upon the earth to make an image to the wild beast which had the wound of the sword and lived. And then here in Daniel 2:3, and then Daniel 3:12, we'll go through it again. If any, then 14:9 and 10 of Revelation, if any does obeisance to the wild beast in his image and receives an imprint upon his forehead or upon his hand, even he shall drink from out of the wine of the rage of God. So an icon is a term for, to me, it's a computer term. You have icons now, these little icons, little things that you see in the computer. To me, it has something to do with the computer. And an image, icon of which the kephali head was of chrysanthemum, has to do with gold, the gold plant, with katharu, cathartic, pure gold, the hieris, the hands, and the stethos, a stethometer, not a stethometer, what do you call it? The stethoscope. Put it on the breast to hear the heartbeat. And the arms of it are giri, silver. Argentina comes from that. And the kilia, the belly and the thighs, brass. And the shanks of iron, and the feet, part somewhat of iron and part somewhat earthenware. So the Halki with the Chalcolithic era, the brass age, copper age, POTUS, POD, all these derivatives you can look up in the book. You viewed until a stone was shredded, from out of the mountain without hands. Now, this icon generally is two-dimensional. It's not three-dimensional. I may be wrong on that, but generally it's two-dimensional in the Old Testament. Which they did is they carved these huge pictures on the walls of mountains, sort of like Mount Rushmore in the United States. If you've seen that of the four presidents, and they would do that back in that ancient time. So it could have was probably carved into a side of a cliff, and a stone. A lithography, writing on stone, from the Orus, a mountain without hands, was shredded. It came apart off of it, and it struck the image, the icona, upon the potus. So it fell all the way down to the feet of iron and earthenware, and it thinned them out into completion. So it comes down and it hits the bottom. It doesn't go to the top. Interesting. Then they were thinned out at once. The potsherd, the iron, the brass, the silver, the gold, and became as a cloud of dust from the threshing floor at harvest. Now, so it starts from the bottom. They were thinned out. It starts at the bottom, which is kind of strange. And this word you can add to the English derivative books under 3749, ostrakon. So it became a cloud of dust from the threshing floor at harvest, so it just powdered. And the abundance of the wind lifted them away. Pneummatos, here is wind. Pneumacum also is spirit, whenever it has to do with the deity. And topos was not found for them. A topos, topography, has to do with map making. And the lithos, which struck the icona, became a great mega oros, a mountain, and it filled all the gain. Earth, geology comes from that. This is the Nipnion, and the interpretation of it we will tell before the Vasileos. Okay? Let me go back. I forgot. I can keep it on. Do it. Never mind. You, Vasilevs, are King of Kings, to whom the God of heaven gave a strong and fortified and honorable kingdom. Then we will read more about Nebuchadnezzar and his dealings with the Lord. But God decided that Nebuchadnezzar would be the king, and have a kingdom that would be strong and honorable, more honorable than Israel or Judea, which was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. And when God told the prophet that he was going to use Nebuchadnezzar to come and destroy them, he said, well, those people are worse than we are. Well, that may be the case, but God will use evil against evil and so forth. So Israel or Judea was taken captive, and these men were taken before the whole nation of Judea was taken out, but it was during the third to the last king. In every place where the sons of men dwell, both wild beasts of the agru, agriculture, and the birds of the urano, heaven he gave into your hand, and placed you Lord of all. You are the head of gold, Krisi. So now we know that Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, is this head of gold. And after you shall arise another kingdom inferior of you. So this was the kingdoms, the next large kingdom after Nebuchadnezzar was Alexander, but in between were the Medes, the Persian Empire. So this is the silver was probably the Medes and the Persians. And a third kingdom, which is the brass, which shall dominate over all the earth. See, it's stronger than the second, which shall dominate over all the earth, or the land, and that would have been Alexander if this is the time that he's talking about. I mean, this is the conjecture. It doesn't say that. And a fourth kingdom, which shall be strong as iron, in which manner iron makes fine and tames all things, so it shall be made fine and be tamed. People believe that to be Rome. And it was powerful of iron until it was made fine and it was tamed, and it disappeared for 1,500 years. And that which you beheld of the feet and of the toes, now the iron was the shanks, the toes and the feet, and the toes, part somewhat of ostrakinon, earthenware, and part somewhat of iron, will be a divided kingdom. Now, some people think this has to do with the kings. It mentions it's a kingdom, and the kingdom and the kings it mentions here, we'll get into it in a second. So that people think that because of the toes, it was 10 toes on 2 feet. So then they have this going to do with 10 kingdoms, powers, whatever. And part some earthenware, and part somewhat of iron. It will be a divided kingdom. So there it's a kingdom. And some from the root of iron will be in it. And the iron would have been Rome, the Roman Empire. So somehow the part of the Roman Empire is going to be in this kingdom. In page 23, it goes into a kingdom, and I'll go into 23 in the English entities of the book of Revelation book here. And Revelation 16:10, it says, "And the fifth angel poured out his bowl upon the throne of the wild beast, and his kingdom became enveloped in darkness." And then 17:12, "And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, the ones who not yet received the kingdom, but receive authority as kings, 1 hour with the wild beast." And then 17:17, "For God gave to their hearts to do his design, and to do one design, and to give their kingdom to the wild beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled." Maybe here. And 17:18, "And the woman whom you saw is the great city, having kingship over the kings of the earth." Now, is that Rome? Well, some people think so. I don't, but could be. I think it's Israel or Jerusalem. And we'll go into that when we get into Revelation. "And the toes of the feet, part somewhat of iron, part somewhat of earthenware. Part of the kingdom will be somewhat strong, and some from it will be broken. For you beheld the iron being intermingled with the potsherd, so they will be mixed together with the seed of men." Well, that's interesting, with the seed of men. So it almost sounds like this is not something, it's something beyond human that they're going to be mixed up with, which goes along with, to me, the beast perfectly of Revelation. "But they will not be cleaving this one with the other one, as the iron intermingles not with the potsherd." Now the beast is in control and uses everybody and things. "And in the days of those kings," now see, here it is, the kings, and then the 10 kings, and then the ones of Revelation, "the God of heaven shall raise up a kingdom, Vasilian, the Lord Jesus, which shall not be corrupted into the aeonis. And of to his kingdom, Vasilia, shall not be left to another people, but it shall thin and winnow all the kingdoms. And this one shall rise up into the eons." So the kingdom of the Lord will rise up, and it will last forever when he returns and comes back to take his place as King, King of kings and Lord of lords. "In which manner, Tropon, you beheld that from a mountain a stone was trimmed without hands." Remember, it didn't drop down and and it thinned the potsherd, the iron, brass, silver, and gold. "The great God has made known to the king what must take place after these things, towards in the last of the days," it said. "And the dream is true, and the interpretation of it is trustworthy. That's it. Then Vasilev's Nabuchodonosor fell upon his face and did obeisance to Daniel and said to offer a libation to him of a gift offering and of a pleasant aroma offering. In responding, the Vasilev said to Daniel, in truth, your God, Theos Imon, he is Theos Theon, God of gods, and Kyrios of the Vasileon, Lord of the kings, and Apocalypton, uncovering apocalypse mysteria. For you are able to apocalypse to mysterion tuto. And the king Megalinen, magnified the Vasilevs. The king magnified Daniel and gave to him great and many gifts and established him, Daniel, over all over all the places of Babylon. And ruler of satraps, that's a transliteration, could put that in the book if you want, over all the wise men, Sophus of Avilonos. And Daniel asked from the king, the Vasileos, and he placed over the the works ergonomics of the Horas of Babylon, Shadrach, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. There it gives them the Aramaic words, names, Babylonian names. And Daniel Belteshazzar was his name, but it uses his Hebrew name, was in the Avli, the courtyard of the Vasileos. So, the second chapter, quite a lot into the chapter. It relates to a revelation, to me in quite a ways, at the beginning of it, in this fascinating book. And then we go into another image, icon, in the third chapter. And I hope you'll join us in the third chapter of Daniel to find out what it is. And God bless.